So with those announcements, let's dive in. Excited to be teaching tonight on hormones, happiness, and health. And it's all interrelated. Let's start by talking about hormones. Hormones and you. Have you done everything imaginable to lose weight, but the scale still refuses to budge? Have you found it impossible to shake that last 10 to 15 pounds, even though you're doing everything right? Maybe it's not you. Maybe it's your hormones. Yep. When your hormones are out of whack, it creates an endless array of health problems, including sugar cravings, moodiness, insomnia, slow metabolism, and of course, weight gain or weight loss resistance. Is anyone relating? Does this sound like you already? Your hormones determine where you store fat and how much fat kind of sticks around your waist, your hips, your thighs. Hormones regulate your metabolism. If your hormones are not stable, you can eat all the right foods in all the right portions and you still don't lose weight. And you can exercise in the gym 8 days a week and still not lose weight. This is crazy making, right? So let's talk about a few of these key hormones. I think we're just going to hit 5 or 6. Estrogen is the sex hormone. I mean, that's what makes a woman, the one that gives us our curves, our monthly cycle, the ability to produce children, the one that brings us PMS, and whose decline brings on sometimes debilitating symptoms during menopause. It's produced by your ovaries, your liver, primarily your ovaries, but your liver, adrenal glands, and breasts also secrete estrogen as well. Estrogen dominance, okay? That's not a good thing. That doesn't mean women are in charge at the church. No, that means that there's too much estrogen in your system, especially relative to progesterone. And that is specifically linked to weight gain, to inflammation. Well, what's inflammation? Anything that ends with itis, arthritis, bursitis. If it ends in itis, it's inflammation. It also affects diabetes and breast cancer. Caffeine, I'm going to say a lot more about caffeine later, but caffeine can be a factor in estrogen dominance. So I'm going to say more about this in a few minutes. Either eliminate the coffee or limit yourself to 1 cup per day. Okay. I'll say more in a minute. Because there is some research that a cup a day is actually good for you. The problem is when you're having 2, 3, 4 cups a day. The fastest way to reset your estrogen level is to eliminate red meat and alcohol. And you can still have eggs, fish, and protein from nuts and seeds. And it's not necessary to be a vegetarian for life. Even a short break from red meat and alcohol can enable your estrogen levels to reset. So you might want to take a break from red meat and alcohol for, a week, 2 weeks, 21 days, a month. That might be ideal, and see if your body, your estrogen levels will readjust themselves. So I'm going to give you a hormone reset strategy, and it's going to kind of build cumulatively throughout the presentation. To reset estrogen, I'm just going to give you just a simple thing for each one. And again, your hormones are complex. There are hundreds of books written and doctors who specialize in this and hormone replacement therapies and Suzanne Summers. I'm just going to give you a quick overview, okay, and at least touch on it. But if you know that estrogen is an issue for you, try this, eliminating red meat and alcohol for the month of, maybe for a month. And then number 2 is insulin. Now, insulin is a hormone that's produced in the pancreas that regulates the amount of glucose in the blood. So insulin is the hormone that determines how well your body transforms food into energy. And problems with insulin have a significant impact on your ability to lose weight. In fact, I've done a prior teaching on this, on insulin resistance, and how really it might even for a lot of you be the number one issue in why you can't lose weight. Insulin determines whether fat is burned and how quickly it's burned, or whether it's stored in your fat cells. That's all up to insulin. Insulin resistance is a metabolic response to a lifetime of consuming too much sugar and refined carbohydrates. Again, I previously taught for a full hour on that topic. Insulin resistance is a leading cause of weight gain. Insulin imbalances obviously lead to diabetes, but also cause, again, inflammation, anything ending with itis, mood swings, and constant cravings. High levels of insulin can also cause estrogen dominance and leptin resistance. Leptin, we're getting there, controls your hunger mechanism. Okay, more about that in a minute. Hormones, as we're already seeing, and we're only on number 2, have a domino effect in which each hormone affects the rest. So trouble in one area is going to lead to trouble in others. The key to resetting your insulin level, if you just do one thing, is to eliminate sugar and refined carbs. Consuming lean protein and like a pound of non-starchy vegetables per day can help your insulin levels begin to rebalance. One of the reasons when people join the 90-day renewal, the first thing that we tell them to do is to add to their diet instead of like, don't do this, don't do that. We try to begin people on a positive note because so many have been through deprivation diets. The first thing we say is you'll eat as many vegetables as you possibly can. And this is true. Just today, just a few hours ago, I started another pot of cabbage soup. It's just a great way to get a lot of vegetables. I love soups in a jar and salads in a jar. Why? Because it helps to regulate your insulin. Lean protein and lots of vegetables. So good for you. People with insulin resistance should consider eliminating all fruit for a season. You don't have to eliminate them forever. Eventually, your hormones will reset to a healthy level. Because remember, God designed the body to heal itself if we give it a chance. But sometimes you got to take a break from these things. If you do consume fruit, make sure you stick to low glycemic fruits like berries. And I know that for those of you who've been at the 90-day renewal and been in the RLC for a long period of time, a lot of this, you know this eating plan, but tonight you're gaining more understanding into the hormonal aspect and why we recommend the eating plan that we do. And again, I'm going to say more about fruit in the next section. Fructose, fruit sugar, is actually more detrimental than table sugar when you're struggling with insulin resistance. Beware fructose. And they add it to a lot of foods. You're like, oh, fructose. That sounds like fruit. Fruit's good for me. Okay. No, fructose is horrible for you. Worse than table sugar. And they put it in a lot of health foods. And what's even worse than fructose is sugar substitutes, other than stevia. They're actually more harmful in many cases than sugar. So run for your life from diet sodas, and actually anything that's labeled diet is probably pretty bad for you. Now, some women with insulin resistance do really well with slow burning carbs, especially like white kidney beans, which contain a natural carb blocker. And honestly, others don't do well on legumes. And I don't know how to tell which one you are. Some people think it might be related to blood type or genetics. I don't know. So just be willing to experiment. I do well on legumes, but I know that some people don't. So be willing to kind of see how your body responds and adjust accordingly. But if you can do well on them, it will really help your insulin levels to regulate. Why? Because it's a slow burning carb. So it doesn't spike your blood sugar like a refined carbohydrate would. Lentils, black beans, pinto beans, those are great too. If you have insulin resistance, you should eat high protein meals every 4 to 6 hours, but avoid snacking. Okay, so again, to reset your estrogen, we're going to eliminate red meat and alcohol. To reset your insulin, eliminate all sugar and refined carbs, and try slow burning carbs instead. Okay, the next hormone that we're going to look at is leptin. Leptin is often called the obesity hormone. It's produced by your body's fat cells. That can't be good, right? If this hormone malfunctions, it will be almost impossible to reach and maintain your ideal weight. Because leptin is your body's natural appetite suppressant. It tells you when you are full and should stop eating. Unfortunately, sometimes your brain, it just doesn't get the message. Can't get a message through that you're no longer hungry. In fact, your brain tells you 24/7 that you're starving, when of course you're not. And once again, it's not from, you would think, oh, that problem is because I don't have enough leptin. And in every instance, it's opuesto. It's exactly the opposite. The problem is always when you get too much of these hormones, too much leptin. That's when the trouble comes. An overloaded, overwhelmed system. That's what causes your body to be like, okay, I can't take it anymore. It's just too much insulin coming at me, too much sugar coming at me, too much cortisol coming at me. I am shutting down. I can't do this. That's when we get into trouble. Too much of a good thing. A little leptin is good. That's great. Too much leptin. This is a little bit scary here. If you have a BMI over 25, body mass index over 25, your fat cells will automatically produce excess leptin. You're at a huge disadvantage. And your brain then gets bombarded with too much leptin and shuts down. And then you've got leptin resistance. I know I've taught previously on insulin resistance. This is leptin resistance. Your body's like, I can't cope with any more. Don't tell me anymore how much I can eat. I'm done. So it's not you, it's your body. It's your hormones saying that. Right? You think it's you saying, don't tell me how much I can eat. Don't tell me I'm not hungry. I know I'm hungry. It's not you, it's your hormones saying that. You are actually incapable, physiologically incapable of experiencing the sensation of fullness. It's not your fault, right? Leptin resistance causes carbohydrate cravings, constant hunger, and of course, overeating, right? Your brain literally thinks you're starving, no matter how much you eat. And so it's just critical to stabilize your leptin level, or you're going to be waging this 24/7 battle against your own brain. And you're not going to win that one because nobody has that much willpower. Again, to be clear, this hormone is manufactured in your fat cells. And when you eat that leptin, it goes into the blood system, travels up to the brain with one mission. Hey, tell the brain, stop eating now. But when there's too many of them, they're screaming at the brain and the brain tunes out and says, we're not going to listen. And so when that's not happening, you're doomed to being overweight or waging an endless battle with yourself. It's no fun. Now, the number one way to reset your leptin hormone, you ready for this? Eliminate all fruit. I know, because you're like, oh, I'm going to eat healthy. Isn't that what you were thinking? I'm going to eat healthy. You can have some fruit and fructose. No. That's the number one thing you can do. Get rid of the fruit. And replace it, not with bagels, but you're going to replace it with vegetables. No fruit for you. If this is ringing a bell, and if your BMI is over 25, it is ringing a bell. You've got too much leptin going on. And I think I put this somewhere on the keynote. For sure, no fruit juice. I'm sure I had to have covered it somewhere. The second best way is to eat lean protein within 30 minutes of awaking. And I know we've talked a little bit about we've talked extensively about intermittent fasting. But if you are leptin resistant and you know that's happening because you've tried the intermittent fasting, it's not working for you, then you need to do this. Okay. Within 30 minutes of getting out of bed, you got to have some lean protein. And you are waking up and having orange juice. And then have at least 75 grams of protein each day, 25 at each meal. And then number 3, again, stop snacking. Snacking is terrible for you. Also, and we do recommend this in the 90-day renewal book, a supplement of omega-3 that can really help. It can help not only with leptin, it also helps with insulin. So everybody should be taking a good omega-3. And then, once your leptin levels are regulated, and that means you've got a BMI, but you're below 24 at a minimum, then if you want to have some low glycemic fruit, that's okay. So again, review: to reset your estrogen, eliminate the red meat and alcohol; to reset your insulin, eliminate sugar and refined carbs and try slow burning instead. And then for the leptin, eliminate the fruit, and you're going to have some protein within 30 minutes of waking up. Okay. Is this helping? I know that this is a lot of science. I'm thinking what I'm trying to convey to you is that it's not you, it's your hormones. But then it comes back to the only one that can adjust those hormones is you. And, maybe you need to visit a doctor. If this is like, whoa, Donna, wow, this is really me. I think I've got some hormonal imbalances. Then, maybe you need to go to a doctor. I'm not one to dash off to a doctor. And I know that God is a genius and that he designed our bodies to heal themselves when we give them what they need. That, in prayer and in consultation with people that you trust and respect, maybe you do need to see, and maybe a naturopath or your family doctor or whatever. But I just want to get you thinking and aware of some of these issues. Okay. Number 4 is cortisol. Now, cortisol is the hormone produced by your adrenal glands. It's what's called the fight or flight hormone or the stress hormone. Cortisol's job is to put you on high alert. Like, hey, wake up, girl. Come on, wake up. We get a crisis here. Wake up. Snap to it. We get a dangerous situation. You got to take action. The problem is that many of us have been living in perpetual fight or flight mode for years, if not decades. We're always high strung, high alert. And it's the culture. It's living in this century, 21st century living. We're bombarded all the time with so much stimulation. The news, I didn't put this as a suggestion, but really, if cortisol is an issue for you, your adrenal system, and me too, turn off the news. Who was shot and who was killed and where was the fire and the world's falling apart. It just, so much fear and distress. Maybe you need to take a break. Adrenal fatigue syndrome is called the disease of the 21st century. Again, not your fault. But you can choose to tune some of it out. I know I've mentioned this in the renewal, and I'll mention it here. Get the Freedom app. Freedom.to, if you want to do on your browser, freedom.to, or you can go in the App Store and just type, Freedom app. And it'll block it'll shut your computer off automatically. Or shut off the internet anyway. And just it can block certain websites all day or permanently or for blocks of time. But it's something to think about. Everybody is just perpetually on high alert and stressed out. And again, what is it? It's excess cortisol. It's not that you don't have enough, it's that you're producing too much. Excess cortisol also increases the release of ghrelin. That's the hormone that stimulates your appetite and is the leading cause of binge eating. Yep. Just so you know what adrenal fatigue looks like, okay? Again, all of these are weight gain. That's why I picked these hormones to talk about. Hair loss, depression, anxiety, food allergies, exhaustion, inability to cope with stress, easily frustrated, low blood sugar. Does that sound like you? Could be cortisol. Cortisol is also a key player in fat storage. Too much stress can literally make you fat and can certainly make you weight loss resistant. Now, warning, okay, coffee elevates cortisol. Now, if you don't have an issue with cortisol, again, we want to be balanced. If you don't have a cortisol issue, a cup of coffee a day, especially if you do like a bulletproof coffee, a good quality coffee that doesn't have any mold in it, and you don't add any sugar, you just do a little like a bulletproof style, some ghee, and a little bit of peppermint essential oil, some MCT oil. It's okay. A cup of that is okay. But you do need to know that coffee does elevate your cortisol levels. And caffeine does send a signal to your hypothalamus that your adrenal glands need to release more cortisol. That's what, it's like, okay, here's a day coming, people. We got to fight. We got to run. We got to go get going. So a little bit of coffee, okay. That is, you do need to get up and get going. You do need to fight and face the day. But not if you're already on overload. Caffeine stresses you out. Do you ever have caffeine? You're just wired. It's the cortisol. And here's something. Stressed people are scientifically proven to eat foods high in fat. This is when you're stressed, this is what your body wants. Lots of sugar, lots of fat, lots of salt. Why? Because that will calm you down. Again, it's physiological. It's not just psychological. Not you. It's a biological fact. Excess cortisol also results in slower metabolism. Bottom line, stress makes you fat. So here's the irony. If you're stressed out about being fat, that makes you fat. I'm going to say that again because this is a big revelation right here. Stressing out about being fat makes you fat. Stressing about your weight makes you gain weight. Wow. Uh-oh. Talk about your vicious cycles. Is there good news, Donna? Do we have any good news tonight? Quick, let's get through these. Glad I didn't pick 20 of them. Excess caffeine can cause weight gain. So here's what, maybe eliminate coffee for a week. Eliminate coffee for a week and see if the scale moves with just that one change. If it does, then you shouldn't be having coffee. But if you get off coffee for a week and it doesn't really make a difference, then it might not be the change agent. But for sure, I would limit your coffee to, why do you need more than a cup? A cup a day, that's nice. 2 cups, not so nice. 3 cups? Are you trying to kill yourself over there? I know people who have like a pot of coffee. Oh, you can also help to stabilize your cortisol levels by maintaining a regular sleep schedule. And again, I know some of you are new to the RLC, but this is something we've just been hammering and working on and having contests around since the beginning. Having an evening schedule, having a morning schedule, going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time, even on weekends, really makes a huge difference in your health overall, but specifically in your cortisol levels. So again, I'm just reviewing. For the estrogen, what are you going to do? Eliminate red meat and alcohol. For the insulin, get off sugar and refined carbs. For the leptin, you got to get off the fruit. And for the cortisol, eliminate coffee for a period of time. And it's really not a bad idea. Like every once in a while, maybe once a quarter or a few times a year, just give your body a break from it. I think it's a really good idea. And really when you're fasting, that would be a really good time. Like if you're going to do a 10-day fast, I know Dr. Kristen's fast, the breakthrough fast, get off the coffee. And so if you did Dr. Kristen's 10-day fast once a quarter, 4 times a year, or at least twice a year, and during that 10 days you got off the coffee, I just think it would be wonderful for all of us. And yes, we can make it 10 days without coffee. We can do it. And Dr. Kristen shows you exactly step by step. That's a really easy kind of a starter fast. That's good for us who've been doing it for a while too. It's an easy one, which is good because we're finding it with stress makes you gain weight. So let's not stress ourselves about fasting or anything. And then after you've done that 10-day fast and or 10-day break from coffee, then come back and eat a cup a day. That's fine. Okay. And then number 5 is your thyroid hormones, the T3 and the T4 thyroid hormones. I'm not even going to try triodoxyphline, whatever. You can pronounce them however you want. I'm just calling them T3 and T4. These are the hormones that are produced by your thyroid. They regulate your body's temperature. So if you're cold all the time, that's your thyroid. Also, your metabolism. And people say all the time, it's my thyroid, it's my metabolism. It may be. And your heart rate. So if you're get like panic attacks, your heart starts racing, that's your thyroid. And again, thyroid, this has become an absolute epidemic. And one of the major causes of thyroid problems is gluten. I'm going to go off on a tiny tangent about gluten, okay? Because it really impacts these key hormones right here. The molecular structure of gluten mimics the molecular structure of your thyroid. So in your body, when it sees gluten, when it knows it's like an invader. It knows that this gluten is bad for you. So what your body does is your immune system goes onto high alert, saying, oh, gluten is bad. We got to get rid of this stuff. We got to destroy it. So it produces antibodies to try to eliminate the threat of this gluten. Follow this. Unfortunately, these antibodies also attack your thyroid gland because they can't tell the difference between your thyroid, which you need and is good for you, and the gluten molecules that are terrible for you. And your body literally attacks itself. This is called Hashimoto's disease or hypothyroid. And a lot of women have it. And they don't know that they have it. So again, I'm going to include some of these symptoms. Fatigue, cold sensitivity, brittle nails, hair loss, weight gain, joint pain, muscle weakness, depression, memory loss, like forgetting words mid-sentence, not like necessarily forgetting things from the past, but forgetting things in the present. Where's your key? What was I saying? What's that word? I can't remember it. That type of thing. That's Hashimoto's. And it's caused because gluten is attacking your thyroid, and your T3 and your T4, those hormone levels are all out of whack. Huge problem for a lot of you. And again, the thyroid affects your metabolism, affects all these other things. So when it's not functioning properly, same old thing. Just a little bit about gluten here. And I forgot to credit this. I did get this off a science site somewhere. Gluten also damages the gut lining, leading to leaky gut syndrome. As a result, toxins from your digestive system leak into your bloodstream. Actually, I did write this, causing endless health complications, including acne, eczema, and psoriasis, depression, anxiety, and ADHD, constipation, diarrhea, and IBS, colds and sinus infections, autoimmune diseases, including fibromyalgia and arthritis, and as already mentioned, thyroid problems. I know where that this is a infographic from Dr. Axe. That's AXA, Dr. Axe has an infographic with all this information. The most important thing that you can do to reset your thyroid hormones is to eliminate gluten and all grains from your diet. And I didn't put it on the slide, but I've talked about it before. And Dr. Axe talks a lot about it also, is bone broth. Really good for you because that addresses the leaky gut aspect. Okay, so the estrogen, you know what we're going to do? Red meat and alcohol, insulin, get rid of the sugar and refined carbs, leptin, get rid of the fruit, cortisol, cut back on the coffee. And then for your thyroid hormones, you've got to eliminate the gluten and grains. You know, when you look at this, it really does sound a lot like the 90-day renewal eating plan, although we do allow red meat. But other than that, I mean, this is pretty close to the eating plan that God gave me back in 20 years ago, before the science really had caught up on a lot of this stuff. And then this is the last one we're going to look at, the human growth hormone. Somatotropin, which I'm sure I destroyed, or HGH, I can pronounce that, stimulates growth, cell reproduction, and cell regeneration. It regulates your body composition, muscle versus fat, that type of thing, and impacts the metabolism of both sugar and fat. So this is where you can kind of be skinny fat. Like the scale says you're not fat, but you're just flab. Anybody? That's an imbalance of your human growth hormone. Does that sound like you? Insufficient levels of HGH can lead to weight gain, especially around the waist, depression, anxiety, hair loss, decreased muscle mass, difficulty concentrating, and fatigue. And that decreased muscle mass is the big one, because you might, again, the scale says you're fine, but your clothes don't fit well, and you don't, you're just flabby. That's the hormone, human growth hormone. Now, I'm not going to say a lot about this. I'm just going to hit one thing very briefly because it's important and I think sufficient to the day. Many animals, especially dairy cows, have been treated with synthetic growth hormones to make and beef cows too, and chickens and everything else. When we consume these meats and especially these dairy products, it can have a very negative health consequence, including weight gain. So, and again, people are more aware now, and especially if you go to like a health food store or organic store, but be alert to that if for some reason you do want to do dairy and meat products, make sure that they're labeled, no growth hormones. Again, this is something you've got to kind of experiment. Maybe try eliminating dairy for 3 to 7 days. And you might be surprised that one change alone might make a difference for you. And I think we've hit these. And you can drink milk alternatives like almond milk or coconut milk. And now I want to dive in. And I've been thinking a lot about this, especially for those of you who've been with us more for like a year. We've had a lot of really intense challenges. And maybe you've been working really hard. And I think it might be fun for us to laugh together. And not just fun, but I think it might do our health some good. And we might even lose the scale. So I really felt like this month, I didn't want to do an intense challenge. Now having said that, if in your small accountability groups, you're like, hey, let's reset our hormones. Let's follow those tips that Donna laid out. And if enough people in the Facebook group want to get on board with it, we can put that together. But I really felt like it would do us a world of good just to laugh together and enjoy each other. And one of the best ways to get to know people is by their sense of humor. And so I think it might be fun for us to share that together. Happiness is healing. A cheerful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. Remember cortisol, the stress hormone that makes you fat and exhausted? You ready for some good news, some fun news? Laughter diminishes cortisol while boosting your immune system. Laughter also balances your growth hormones. Laughter gives you a mini aerobic workout. Laughing for an hour, it'd be hard to laugh for an hour unless you fell under holy laughter somewhere. Laughing for an hour burns as many calories as 30 minutes of weightlifting. I was actually reading a book about this. It was by Chris Valentin. It was a really good book. And he was talking about the Toronto blessing and the holy laughter. And everybody was like, what? That's not God. That's what we thought. We thought it was the devil. I don't know what you thought, but we thought it was the devil. Like, why would God make people laugh at church? And was that decades ago? Now science has shown, and a lot of people testified, they were healed of these different diseases. They were healed of emotional trauma. And I didn't post it here. I meant to. But laughter can actually release from your body stored emotional trauma. I'm going to say it again. Laughter can jar loose traumatic stress disorders, memories, muscle memory, and things like that that's stored in your body. Laughing literally heals you. That in all of, and this is probably controversial. And again, I didn't support the movement at the time. So if you don't, okay, I can see why people thought it was a little out there. That's what I thought too. But now science is saying, you know what? God was healing people. He was healing people physically and emotionally. I'm telling you, God confounds the wisdom of the wise. And laughter is good for you. You know what they're saying? Even if you fake laughing and then you start laughing and you don't even know why you're laughing, it is actually incredibly good for you. I'm talking myself into it. Laughter bonds us with others, making us less likely to turn to food, to bond with our food and get consolation from that. Happiness boosts serotonin, the happiness chemical. Serotonin makes you less impulsive. Are you an impulse eater? Come on, we wouldn't be meeting here together if we weren't impulse eaters. You know why you're an impulse eater? Because you don't have enough serotonin. But when you laugh and are happy, it boosts your serotonin and reduces impulse eating. You know, I got onto this whole thing. I was talking with my accountability partner, with Rennie, and thinking about it and praying about it. And I was looking through old photos and realized, when am I really at my ideal weight? When do I really look my best? And you want to know the answer? It's not when I'm doing CrossFit and marathons and, killing myself and pushing. You want to know when I've looked my absolute best? When I've been happiest. And it really hit me. I was looking through some old pictures and stuff. And my oldest daughter, is it okay for me to just be personal? I was taking a walk on the beach and just praying about this, and God was just reminding me of this whole thing, and because I'm praying for you too. Lord, what should we do? And saying, okay, so what works for me that I can share with these ladies? And I've shared a lot of science, and we've had a lot of challenges. But I was walking on the beach, the Lord was just showed me. He's like, when you lose weight, when you're happy. And I walked in and I saw my daughter, and I'm like, Leah, I just had the greatest revelation. When I'm at my absolute best, my ideal weight, when that is, what really works for me? She said, when you're happy. I'm like, I didn't even need to pray and all that. I could just ask you. It would have been faster. And it's just true. I'm giving you a testimony from my own life. And the funny thing is, I'm maybe not even eating as well. Some of the happiest time of my life was, I think, my 4th mission trip to Colombia. When I lived there for 2 months in Bogota. That was probably some of the happiest days of my life. And I did not eat well. I mean, Colombians are crazy. They'll have church. No, and this is, I'm not made. They'll have church until 11 p.m. and then go out and have a full dinner. For real. They wake up to chocolate milk and coffee. I was not eating perfectly, but my weight, I was so toned. I was like a size 4 and I didn't have a scale. So I wasn't weighing myself and I wasn't being careful. Are you hearing me? You know what I was? I was happy. And then I was thinking of just other times in my life when I really looked my absolute best. And the thing that I had in common in every one of those, it was just a happy time. So how about if we just be happy? When you're happy, when you have a healthy level of serotonin, you're less likely to self-sabotage and self-destruct. There's no need to self-medicate with food because you're already happy. You don't want to overeat. Happiness is healing. When you're laughing, obviously, you're not stressing out. What do you guys think of this as a challenge? How about if we just take the rest of this month to proactively choose to laugh on purpose to lose weight? Let's happy our way into weight loss.